Break in this hearing with Attorney General Jeff Sessions in the hot seat today. It's what we've been covering on Fox News Channel for about the last hour or so. They are going to go do a procedural vote there, and the House Judiciary Committee stepping away along with the Attorney General while that happens, and we anticipate that they will come back and resume the hearing now. A lot of questions, and you saw it getting so testy there. This is the kind of intensity that we've been watching for hours as Democrats particularly try to press in with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, sometimes in a very intense manner, to try to see if they can get at the heart of whether or not he had meetings with Russians and whether or not there were people on the Trump campaign that did. At one point, he answered the question quite directly and said, "Are you accusing me of lying?" I want to bring in right now Republican Congressman Louie Gohmert of Texas, a member of that House Judiciary Committee. And you just got out of the hearing. I have to say that the tone of this at times was tough.
Well, yeah, it's certainly been tough, and that's where these hearings often go. But it is important to point out, they keep going back, the Democrats, to his initial testimony, and the question involved as part of the campaign. And he did not meet with any Russians as part of the campaign. He's right, he was being truthful. All of us meet with foreign ambassadors. In fact, just within the last hour, I have met with a leading official from one of our African countries, and I consider her a good friend. And anyway, but if somebody were to say, well, Louie, have you met with anybody from Africa as part of your campaign, I would immediately say no, and it would not occur to me to bring up something that was part of my official duties here and not part of a campaign.
I would point out
Jeff is doing everything he can to be truthful, but naturally he's getting beat up quite a bit.
I would point out that there are no nations that we know of right now that have been accused of meddling in any presidential elections here in the United States. I hear the point that you're making. I do want to press in with this, though, because there were opportunities for other things, and I call them opportunities because this seemed to go in every single direction. A little bit of news made today because lawmakers asked about Judge Roy Moore down in Alabama and wanted to get Attorney General Sessions on the record about what he thinks about that. Sessions got on the record and said he believes the accusers. What was the mood in the room? The accusers of Roy Moore and sexual misconduct allegations. You got that election that's coming up. What was the mood in the room, and what was your take on it?
Well, I don't know. It didn't seem to get a reaction from anybody in the room. And I think, if I heard correctly, he said, I don't have any reason to disbelieve them. And that's from a personal standpoint. But as he said, this is a state matter, and those would potentially be state charges. And he correctly notes that's not something the federal government would get involved in. But I would submit, though, when you bring up charges 38 years later, I mean, I've prosecuted rape, I've sentenced many rapists to prison. It is just an absolutely horrendous crime. But we also allow into evidence how quickly you had outcry. That can go to the jury, and when somebody waits 38 years, I can't imagine a jury not being completely suspicious. Yes, we understand there's all kinds of pressure. It's tough to bring these things up. But to wait 38 years right before an election, it does raise really interesting questions. Anybody could accuse you of something 38 years ago, and Harris, you're not going to be able to find witnesses that will establish exactly where you were at that moment. If they had raised allegations within months, then you could, and I'm sure Roy Moore could find, okay, was I in somebody's court at that time? But you bring it up 38 years later and say, here are the specifics. Well, people don't remember back 38 specifics to counter. So I think it's grossly unfair.
Okay, so that came up at this hearing, though, as a question, and you saw Attorney General Sessions answer that. Let's go on now. Representative Issa at one point was kind of putting this out there, too, for the Attorney General. In terms of how you meet with people along the way, you gave one example, Issa gave another. What is the significance right now, though, do you think, of being able to talk with Sessions again about Russia, but at the same time, Republicans bringing up this idea of, okay, do you hire a special counsel to look into Hillary Clinton and Uranium One deal, that sort of thing? I mean, do you think that that's been brought up in a way that you think is substantive to move the ball forward?
Well, I was in a meeting with an African official for a moment, so I didn't hear everything, but I don't think it's been adequately brought up. And I'll just give you a heads up, and I haven't talked about this with anybody from the Justice Department. If there's somebody watching, then they'll probably give the AG a heads up. But Harris, I've got a copy here of a motion to seal. This is in a case involving an individual involved in the Russian efforts to obtain U.S. uranium. And this is a motion to seal the search warrants, arrest warrants, criminal complaint, the affidavits involved in the case. And this is to prevent those matters that Bob Mueller, as head of the FBI, and Rod Rosenstein, as U.S. Attorney, had investigated that really should have brought the whole purchase of uranium to an absolute end until they could be completely sure that Russia had nothing to do and could not possibly that uranium. And let me tell you, Harris, right here on the signature line, it's respectfully submitted, Rod J. Rosenstein, United States Attorney. It's signed by Adam Akey for Rod Rosenstein. Rosenstein and Mueller are in this up to their eyeballs.
So wait a minute.
So whether we have to get another special counsel or not, it certainly cannot be Bob Mueller and Rod Rosenstein. They need to be out of the picture.
Look, I know you got to go back in after this vote, so I want to drill down on what you've just shown me, because this is pertinent to the hearing that's going on. I would imagine it'll come up. The motion to seal on Uranium One deal. Tell me again the timing of this, and we'll have to bring you back because I know you've got to go.
Yeah. This is August 18, 2014 is when this motion to seal was filed, and it prevents people from knowing how bad the information was about Russia trying to get our uranium.
Thank you. We're going to get cut off.